Oh, my name's Terence. I'm a electrician, so I went to uni and then finished that off and then did building for a bit, and then I did my electrical apprenticeship, and that's what I'm doing now. So I'm from Malaysia originally, so I came here when I was 7 and I'm 25 now. So yeah, and sports I do, so I do like a variety. I used to do powerlifting, so I started off powerlifting back in high school. I did that when I was around 17, and then I did that all throughout uni, and my last comp was in 2017, and then I decided to try something else, so I trained for a marathon. So did a bit of running for a bit, and then actually before that I did a bodybuilding comp because I wanted to switch it up, and then did the marathon, and then back to the running, and now I'm training for another bodybuilding comp. So my school had a gym, and like I was really into just like gymming, just lifting weights, like back in high school, because I don't know, it was something that I was just interested in, you know, lifting weights. And one of the coaches there at the gym suggested that I just do like a comp, you know, like to you know, participate in something. So that's how I got into doing powerlifting competitions, and yeah, just did that for a couple of years.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't play any sports. Like, I didn't play, you know, any team sports or anything. But I did like football and, you know, rugby and table tennis and like stuff like that. But I didn't really go serious in them. It was just kind of just casual, you know, just kind of play with friends sort of thing. But then with powerlifting it was like a bit more serious. Like I actually got into proper competitions, and that's kind of what drew me into it. You know, it was like competing against other people that were, you know, being serious about something. Yeah. It's something about having a weight that you could go towards, like train towards and lift it. You know, like having like a goal of squatting a certain number or benching a certain number, and just slowly working towards that goal. I found that like really addictive because you're always chasing the next highest number, you know. Every time you hit that number you want to get stronger and hit the next number, and so that's kind of what draws you into it.
I want to try something new.
So like powerlifting was fun, but because you're lifting so much weight, there is a tendency to get injured. So I did get injured quite a bit when I was doing powerlifting, especially like lower back injuries, and that's kind of what made me transition into something else, just because I didn't want to get injured that much, you know. Yeah, my back is still kind of iffy these days because of, you know, the weights and stuff that I pushed back then. So that's why I wanted to transition into something less impact on just my body. And powerlifting and bodybuilding do have crossovers because you know, you're lifting a lot of weight, so you're also making a lot of muscle, and the transition wasn't too big because you just have to do a bit more exercise, like different exercises and just dieting.
Bodybuilding.
Alright, yeah, so with bodybuilding I think it's just like a mental shift. Like instead of focusing on the numbers that I was lifting in the gym, it became more like focusing on how you look. So it's more superficial, but when you have like a goal of, oh, I want to look, you know, lean, and then you kind of each week you're seeing yourself losing weight, that's kind of like what drives you to, you know, stay on course. And that's also addictive as well in that way. Yeah.
Success.
I think the challenge would be to manage your time and trying to do these things, you know, because you have to kind of balance out like working and then kind of going to the gym afterwards because you're tired, and so you kind of have to balance, you know, like what you do. I guess that's the biggest challenge, you know, having to work around like being tired after coming home and then having to go to the gym. So like meal preparations and just getting ready, you know, the day beforehand, like little things like that. Yeah, time management is probably
There was
the
actually
biggest.
everything around it.
The actual lifting is also hard, but I think like because I started at such a young age, I already had the experience, and so for me it wasn't like a new thing, you know. So I already knew how to do it, and the challenge was just trying to manage how I'll do it, you know, in like a working environment, you know, like because yeah. So I guess that's the biggest hurdle for me.
Experiences.
Like I loved going onto the platform and like on competition days, like those were really fun, you know, because like for powerlifting especially, some of the events were, you know, in different areas. Like I remember Christchurch, that was probably one of the biggest events that I had for nationals, and that was really fun. And like going to like Dunedin to like watch people compete, and like all, you know, even Auckland, you know, like having like big crowds like yelling at you when you're lifting, like that's really cool. And the same goes with bodybuilding as well, like having to go to like Hamilton, you know, like I never go to Hamilton, and having to go there and like competing and like, you know, going performing in front of a crowd, and so yeah, it's really exciting and like it's really fun on the day. So I think the biggest successes is like just showing up and like showing what you've done, you know, like in the gym, and all that leads up to just one competition. You know?
Obviously.
Yeah, it's fun. It just becomes like a fun thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
In terms of the sports themselves, I don't think it affects you in the way that, you know, you perform in sports.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like 20 kilos is 20 kilos, and you know, if you're shredded, you're shredded. So it doesn't really matter. But I think, just like it's more like the interactions you have with people. You know, they might be a little bit different. I think they might be different. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. I don't think it's impacted me that big, as, you know, from my experience anyway. Like, because when you're competing, like you're not judged by, you know, what your heritage is, so it's not that big of an issue. Yeah, I guess it's just like chasing that next thing, you know, because when you have like a goal to strive towards, you don't really have time to think about like other thoughts, you know. But then once you hit that goal and the goal's achieved, then it's like riding a bike. When you stop, then you kind of like fall over. It's kind of like that. Like once you achieve that goal and you don't have any other goals like just beyond that one, then you kind of think to yourself like, what am I doing? But then if you set another goal, then you can just strive towards that, and then you keep on going, you know. Like obviously you take time to reflect on your past like achievements, but then it's like anything in life. Like if you don't have a goal like where you're trying to go towards, then you're always gonna struggle to find like who you are, you know, if that makes sense. In terms of powerlifting, like when you're trying to squat like 200 kilos, and like in your head, you've never done the weight, but you step onto the platform and you're like, I'm about to do this weight that I've never done. Like it's mental, you know. Like you either believe that you can do it or you can't, you know. And like sometimes like you have to have faith in the work that you've put in, and to have that self-assurance, you know. Like you got to be sure that you'd be able to lift that weight, you know. Like, benching and like squatting and deadlifting, like these weights are heavy, you know, and if you have like any doubt in your mind, you're not gonna lift that weight. And so I think that self-doubt, you know, of being able to like say no, just do it, you know, because you've done the required like training for it, you know, and so you should be able to do that. And yeah, that's one thing about the powerlifting. And with the bodybuilding, I think the most challenging thing for bodybuilders is it's like a lifestyle, you know, because it's like the food you eat, the training you do, and like you have to work that around like your lifestyle, you know, like because obviously everyone has like different work and like different things that they enjoy doing, you know, and so especially the food part, you know, when you're going out with friends, maybe you're like like enjoying a meal, and you have to like find a way around it, you know, and then the hunger as well, like it's always in your mind, and you just kind of have to, you know, like suppress it in a way. Yeah, it's tough, but it's rewarding because you get to see the products of your, you know, training. I remember in both of those things that I was doing, like for powerlifting, I had a coach, and for bodybuilding I also had a coach. And so the coaches that you have, they really keep you accountable to what your goals are. You know, to have someone from the outside like having an input in what your goals are definitely helps in like you getting towards that goal, you know, because it's difficult to do it by yourself, you know, without any help. And so I think those two players were instrumental in like me achieving the goals that I wanted to achieve.
Just two of you.
Yeah, it was mostly just like me. It was me and like other athletes, you know, because bodybuilding and powerlifting, they're just singular sports, like they're not team sports. So you just kind of find like-minded people that enjoy doing the same thing, and you kind of bounce ideas off of them. Yeah, so there was, you know, these like powerlifting communities and like bodybuilding communities, and you just meet up with people and just train with them sometimes. Well, it's kind of given me like a never quit mentality, you know, like even if you, like say for example, even if you fail on like a lift or whatever, and you know like you want to get that lift, you know, so you train for it and you just keep getting at it until you get that, you know, lift. It's sort of like, that's like the mentality for like work as well, you know, like you failed at something, but like you can always get it, you know, the second round. So it's kind of like you have to work towards it. So I grew up in West Auckland for a bit till I was an intermediate. So I went to primary and intermediate for a year, and then I moved over to North Shore, and then I went to Takapuna intermediate, and then Westlake, yeah, and then I went to uni. It was a little bit difficult for me because I didn't really understand English that well when I first came here. It took me like a year to get used to it, but then after that it was pretty alright. Yeah, I mean it was fine. Like I made friends and like we hung out, and yeah, it was just like normal school really. I couldn't really tell, like it was a lot easier in New Zealand just because I mean I used to get like hit by the teachers in Malaysia, so like coming here and not getting hit was like, yo, chill. Yeah, well, Auckland's pretty interesting because there's lots of like cultures around, so there's always like the opportunity to meet someone from Malaysia, or like people that like are culturally similar, you know. yeah, like for example in school, most of my friends were Asians. Yeah, most like people in my classes were Asians. So yeah, it
wasn't too different from what you already knew.
different because it was English, but yeah, apart from that, no. I guess Malaysia's kind of westernized, so it wasn't like the biggest culture shock. But yeah, just like the English part just was different, you know, different slang, different lingo. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult assimilating because you look different. Yeah, people don't know. They don't know you until they talk to you. You know, they just just automatically assume like maybe you can't speak English or yeah. So I'm like not the biggest extrovert, so I don't really like to initiate a lot of conversations, and so I think that's like my biggest hurdle is that because I don't look like I can speak English in the typical sense, like most people don't approach me and like ask me stuff, because I don't look the part, and because I'm not an extrovert, I don't really go out of my way to engage with people as well, and so yeah, I think that's probably my biggest hurdle, but it's not anyone's fault, I think it's just I just need to get out of my shell a little bit sometimes and just kind of engage, because I can see like most people aren't. I don't think most people are naturally extroverted anyway, and so it's always difficult to initiate anything, and especially when you don't look as if don't look the part. People just assume, Well, I like to socialize. So I guess that's how I do it. Just going out there, putting myself out there, trying new things, like the bodybuilding thing. It's definitely out of my comfort zone, and just doing things that I might not like by just looking at it on paper, like running, for example. I didn't like running because obviously I don't come from a running background, so running wasn't natural for me. But like just picking something that's like difficult to do and then just challenging myself to do it and then actually doing it, that kind of shows you like it can be done,
So how did you get into running then?
Exactly how I just told you. Like, it's challenging, so you just do it, and then once you've overcome that hurdle, it's like everything else becomes easier, if that makes sense, because you've done something that you didn't think that you could do,
Simply put,
I don't like to be stagnant in where I am, so like for example, like I have work goals and like gym goals and like bodybuilding goals, and I kind of want to get better like each day. If I'm doing something, I want to get better at it and like improve in some way. And like you can define that in sports, like I want to look bigger, or I want to run faster. And yeah, for me, I just have like bodybuilding goals or like work goals that I strive towards. Yeah. I think it's having a open mind to trying new things, like not just being closed off to just doing one thing, I think that might be the biggest thing, like from when I started doing powerlifting, is that you want to kind of like get really good at doing something, which is great, but then over time, like maybe like branch out and just try something different, I think that's probably what I've learned the most. It's keeping an open mind to like trying new things, because it's always, you might get to a point where there's not that much else you can do in that particular sport, like because you've done for so long, there's not anything kind of new, if that makes sense. And so trying something new, like kind of reinvigorates like your passion for like maybe a previous sport that you've done, you know? Like I haven't done running in a while, but when I see someone run, I'm like, you know, like I want to get back into it again. And so that kind of like drives me, like just, yeah, like different drives by just being open-minded, like try new things, you know? Yeah.
Read it as well?
Oh, yeah, so I went to uni and did like a medicinal chemistry degree. And then after I finished that, I got into building and did that for 6 months. And then, yeah, I just got into a lucky position because my dad's an electrician and he just took me under his belt, and yeah, and here we are, you know, 3 years later. Have some goals, you know. I think for me, like the biggest thing was being lost and not having like a goal, you know, for the longest time, just like wandering around like just aimlessly, you know. So I think that's probably like the biggest one, like having a goal and having like steps of what you're gonna do to achieve that, you know, because then you kind of like, you're going to learn how to manage yourself by going through to get towards that goal, you know. So for example, like when I was doing bodybuilding or like powerlifting, having a goal of lifting a certain weight, but then having the steps, you know, the training program and, you know, everything that encompasses it to get towards that goal. And yeah, having like steps that you can take to get towards that goal, you know. I think that's a big part, because otherwise, yeah, like I say, like you just meander, walk around, like for example, like also pertaining to the being an electrician, was that I wanted to be an electrician and finish my apprenticeship and get my electrical certificate. And like the way I see it is that even with my degree, there was many points in that degree where I was like, oh, I want to quit, you know, but since I've already committed to this goal, sometimes it's best to see it through, you know, like instead of jumping around. And because if I didn't do my degree, like there was nothing else that I was going to do anyway, you know. So yeah, just having goals, like I said I was going to go to uni and like pursue something. I shouldn't change my mind like halfway through, if that makes sense.
And that's how like bodybuilding and
yeah, exactly.
How that has
yeah.
rubbed off on your life positively and pushed you to pursue those things.
Because yeah, by having like a deadline of like a competition, you have to achieve that, right? And so if you've already committed to it and then you kind of pull back, it's like, you know. Say just keep on pushing, you know. Just stay focused and just don't take it too seriously sometimes, you know. That's yeah, just learn and like don't get too caught up in it and everything, and yeah, you'll get there. Yeah, take it easy.